Now, quickly, today's session is going to be what really makes a high-performing vacation rental website, and we have people from four of the top vacation rental website companies that are all going to be contributing their unique insights. So I'll just kind of now hand it over to them to quickly introduce themselves, and I guess we'll start with Mark.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very excited for this. My name is Mark Simpson, founder of Boostly. Been in this industry for a very long time. Been working at Boostly, so I started it 10 years ago. We've worked with over 2,000 hosts, and the cool sort of stat that we've recently pulled is that our members over the last 10 years have generated over $1 billion in bookings, which is very cool. And predominantly known for doing websites, which is obviously what we're talking about today, and tuning in from the United Kingdom. So thank you very much, everybody who's tuned in.
Yeah. And hi, I'm Gil Chan. I'm the founder of CraftedStays. I am also a host, a property manager myself. We have a couple properties out in Tennessee and in Missouri. And I started CraftedStays because I was looking for my own direct booking solution. I had come from a background in e-commerce, working with pretty closely with Shopify, Squarespace, Square, a lot of the big website builders, and I saw what they were able to do in their e-commerce space, and some of the tools that we had on the hospitality space, and seeing the big gap there. So I coded the first version of CraftedStays, and that was the story about a few years back.
Yeah.
It's been great since.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Britt with RealTech. If you don't know RealTech, we've been in business about 25 years. All we do is build direct booking websites and run net ROI-backed marketing services. We're based out of Asheville, North Carolina, and we've got clients all over the country in North America. In terms of me, across my 6-year career with the company, I've done everything from manage our biggest marketing clients to lead and develop our client success team. And nowadays, most of my time is spent figuring out what's not working for our prospects and clients, what is working for our clients and prospects, and filling in the gaps. And that's what I'm hoping to do today. Thanks for joining.
And I am Paul Hannick. I'm following RealTech yet again. Inside joke there. We're actually a direct competitor with RealTech, but they are amazing a group of folks. So we do the same type of work, website development and marketing for our vacation rental clients all across the U.S. And globally as well. I've actually been in the industry since 2006, so 20 years. Built my first website when I was 12. I ranked my first website in Yahoo before Google existed, and I'm bringing all those years of knowledge today to kind of help folks make a better website to make conversions, and that's what we're talking about.
Awesome. And you can see here we have a very long agenda. And just a little about myself, I'm Arthur Kolker, the founder and CEO of StayFi. We're a company that's really focused on helping property managers, vacation rental operators collect and monetize their guest data. And often one of the biggest missing pieces in somebody's direct booking strategy is their website. Because in order for StayFi to be very successful, or any other marketing tool that you're using, it all kind of goes back to the website and whether you're able to get people to trust you and book with you on your site directly. So all the topics here, we're going to talk a little bit about, should you go with something more templated or custom? Is that something that you need to make a trade-off about? We'll talk about the importance of mobile versus desktop and how people use both of those platforms in their booking journey. We'll talk about homepages, because homepages is obviously what people see the most when they come to your website. Then we'll talk more about marketing. So go into SEO and now LLM, so ChatGPT, etc., content optimization, more on traffic acquisition. And then I really like this section at the end where we're just going to go over a bunch of mistakes that all of these folks see in their day-to-day work that people are making in their website. So you can go and check your own and see maybe what needs to be improved or tweak. And then we'll talk a little bit more about marketing, and then we'll have some case studies if we have time. Honestly, we might run out of time and go over, and then we'll have Q&A. So if you do have questions, add them as we go along. So first, we'll talk a little bit more about templated versus custom website builds. And I don't know if, Gil, we'll just start with you, is maybe just talk a little bit about like what these two things even mean to somebody who's potentially looking to build a website for the first time, and what's out there in the world.
Yeah, so it's kind of like to the beginning of why we started the company in the first place was you have basically three different options here. You have either one, use what the PMS offers, and they're usually pretty lightweight booking platforms. It allows you to basically put your properties and have repeat guests be able to book again, but it doesn't do a whole lot from a marketing standpoint. And then you have the agency side of things where someone's building you a bespoke website. On our side, our sites are all templatized, all based on templates and structure and data. So what you can essentially do is you can connect your PMS. You can then choose from a variety of different templates, and within 15 minutes, you can launch a really well-oiled site. We bake in all the things that we've learned across all the property managers that we work with, right? Whether or not that's working with single-digit property managers all the way up to a couple hundred properties on our platforms. So we try to bake in all that. The nice thing of us doing it this way is that when a PMS offers a new feature functionality, if there's things that we learn from mobile navigation that we want to do to increase conversions, we usually test it out with one of our larger property managers first. If it goes well, if it drives up performance, then we roll that out to everybody. So we're able to roll out changes to hundreds or thousands of property managers all at once without having to go into each instance. So that's been our approach. And again, it comes from my learnings of all the e-commerce infrastructure that we've built, or me and my team has built in other ventures.
And I guess Britt and Paul, like obviously you guys offer kind of similar kind of templated tools, but I think you also offer a lot more custom web development. I can say that pretty securely. Kind of like where do you see, if any, trade-offs between those two things, and kind of like what are some indications that maybe somebody could benefit from something more custom if that's in their budget?
Yeah, Paul, I'm glad to talk. I'm also glad to give you some room here.
We'll go back and forth. I think we share
Okay.
the same views. So you go
Yeah,
ahead first.
totally. Yeah, so I mean, for me, I think, kind of two quick things. I think in terms, I'm just going to kind of go through the chart here because I think it makes the point, and I'm going to keep it super, super brief, which is that I think with a templated site and I think with custom sites, there are a lot of assumptions about what you're going to get and what you're not going to get, what the benefits are, what the cons are. Some of that is true, some of it isn't. And I think that, ICND and RealTech, excuse me, a lot of what we've done is based around making sure that you have access to all of the things without having to really uh, make a decision based off what you're giving up. And so, that's something that we really do with our products. Ask me about RealTech Direct. I'm not going to talk about it a whole lot. But leading solutions give you the best of both worlds. That said, we dive less into templates at a more basic level because we have all the features and the products and the user experience of building how it works, and we're able to like democratize that through the template. But when you need custom functionality, you need something that Sam Campese, a salesperson on our team, it always makes me laugh. He uses the phrase, if you need a flaming ball of fire as a custom website builder, we can put a flaming ball of fire on your site. If you need custom rate distribution and calculations that work differently than our base package, then we'll go custom. If you have extremely high level aesthetic requirements that aren't going to be on anybody else's site, we'll go custom. But we are more and more investing in making our template product accessible to everybody.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got to think about as you're growing your business, as you're growing your inventory. I mean, you're gonna redesign your website 3 or 5 times. It's just gonna happen, and you're gonna shop around. You're gonna go with different companies, and yeah, it's just a matter of picking what you need at the moment and anticipating what you're gonna need in a couple of years. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with templated sites. They're the what you talked about, Gil, with the ability to roll out changes to everybody. That's huge. That's a big plus. But on the flip side, if you did have a custom, you can have it your way for your client, for your clientele. All those different features that might differentiate between a mountain client and a beach client, or just how your policies are different, how your calendars are different, how your stay lengths are different, and turn days and all that stuff. It all plays into it. So definitely do your shopping around, and the main thing here is I really feel just pick what is best for what you need and within your budget. And as long as it has the functionality, then yeah, go for it.
Yeah, one more thing to add there. Like Britt and I, we had a chance to chat right before this, and I think the one thing that I'm starting to realize is that the industry is moving towards democracy of a lot of these tools and services. And I think that's the goal of all of us on this call, is to really make sure that we're making a lot of these tools available to anyone that's serious about ownership over their bookings. And we have very different approaches. I'm coming in from really the self-service, like you can self-sign on, not have to talk to a human and get your site spun up. And if you want to go custom route, you can go that with us. Like we do build bespoke websites, but it's not nearly as bespoke or customizable as ICNT and RealTech and Boostly. Like that's not our that's not how we do it. And so it really depends on what your needs are, how much customizations do you want to do, but know that all these services are here to help you reach your goals with whatever resources you have.
Mhm.
I'll just very quickly add, because I know we're going to move on, but it really does depend, right? And this title of this slide says avoid assumptions. And I know we haven't got the chat turned on, but we've got questions. So we've got, what, 83 people in this room. What I would love to do, so I don't assume who's in the audience, just let us know how many properties you've got. And I really do mean that, because just pop it in the Q&A. And I know Arthur's going to hate me this, but just literally put your number in and just add it in. But the reason why that's important is that I've got the very fortunate position of speaking to people who's got one property, who's brand new into this game, who have been around for years and years and years. We've got hundreds of properties. And the way that we've done it at Boostly is that we have got a framework. I don't call it a template because it cheapens the product. We call it a framework, and it's a framework that works. Now, we know what we know because we charge what we charge. We charge $4,000 to $5,000. That's it. And with that, we charge for the framework because it's the framework that works. And a lot of people, when they come to us, they'll maybe be 2, 3, 4 properties into their journey, and the framework is fine. When they start coming to us and talking about all these really cool custom things that's on these lists, obviously what Britt and Paul and ICND and RealTech do, we don't do that because it's out of our, well, you get what you pay for, right? It's out of our remit, it's out of our skill level. So that's why when people come to us and they work with us and they start off that journey and they pass the baton on, because they come to us because they've got the free PMS website, they come to us and then they go, right, I want all these shiny, fancy things that you're talking about. That's why I always say, listen, go to ICND, go to, now Gil's offering this service at CraftedStays, which is great. There's loads of other great players in this game who do it. And obviously, the more I learn about RealTech, the better. But I feel it is pretty much where you are in your journey. And it's very, very important because a lot of people come to us and they'll come to all of us and go to all of our sales teams and they'll go, I just don't want to be reliant on the OTAs for my bookings, right? And that's a great place to start from.
Yeah.
But it's like,
All 4 of us can agree on that, right?
yeah, exactly. But
That's
it's
step
like,
one.
and they always come to us and go, right, I want all these things, shiny things. And it's like, right, Sam, well, that's going to cost you 15,000. They go, oh, okay. So let's just dial it back. So it always matches up with where you are in your journey. So that's what I think is important. And thank you to everybody who's now spammed the Q&A for poor Arthur with how many properties they've got. But it really does help me and like how I sort of come across in this webinar and how I explain things to you all.
Yeah, and I see we have people from 1 property to over 100 properties. And I think that gives us kind of a nice segue, just so that everyone here, especially those on the smaller end who maybe are still using their PMS website, to kind of start to digest some data around how bookers and potential guests are actually even navigating websites. So I forget who added this data, but I think this brings up a really important point about where people are browsing versus where they actually make bookings, and why both are super important to pay attention to.
Yeah, this is actually a combination of all of our clients put together, like a full aggregated number, and this is what is normal for the VR industry. I mean, people are looking on their phones, but they're not booking on their phones. It's still growing. Last year it was like 40%, previous year 35% mobile, but it's like the need for the computer is still there in the VR industry, but the entry point of mobile is super important. And that's where you capture them. That's where you hook them. And if you can't then resync your clause in your remarketing clause in later via desktop, then obviously there's work that needs to be done for your brand to keep it top of mind. But just looking at the bottom there, like the conversion rate on mobile versus desktop, I mean, we're talking double plus. And tablets, nothing really to talk about. It's such a small sliver, but it's just very interesting how how it works. Because I mean, we see people on their phones looking, but it takes a while before that booking actually happens, and it usually does happen on a desktop.
Yeah, I think to add to that one, as you're thinking about how to design your website, I think that the main takeaway of this one is that mobile is a first-class citizen as a medium that you should be designing for on regardless, whatever system you're doing. Even if you're going to be DIYing this, like you want to make sure that you're building this with mobile first, and then kind of to Paul's point of the conversion funnel there, you're going to be optimizing quite a bit for the mobile experience on the top of funnel, your homepage, your landing pages, and those types of pages. You want to make sure that those are well oiled on the mobile side. And then you want to make sure that you're hyper optimizing the checkout flows for desktop because that's where you get the strongest conversions there. That's not to say that you don't optimize it for vice versa, but when you're thinking about the entire flow there and you're thinking about trade-offs and where you spend your times and where you run tests, that has a big contribution on kind of where you should be putting your efforts.
Yeah, and one thing that we'll definitely come back and touch upon this point is that when people are on your site on mobile for the first time, how do you then capture their information to make sure you are remarketing to them go to their desktop and complete the booking? And it also has big implications for tracking because if people are coming to your mobile website, say through an email, and then going back to your desktop to then make the booking, it can make tracking very challenging. So we'll touch upon all those later, but this kind of split you can imagine is already throwing up potential issues that we're going to cover down the line.
Yeah, and Paul covered a lot of this. I won't go into too much detail on the stats there, but I think there's two things that you think about like when you're looking at those stats. Is like one is like where do you optimize the entire funnel? Where should you be paying your attention and really make sure that you're paying attention on mobile. But two, to Arthur's point, is like really about handoff. How do you make sure that someone that's starting the journey on one side is able to continue the journey? That's on tracking, that's on be able to reserve them ads and so or whatnot. It could be email collections, but like one of the things that we do is like now that we know that people tend to book on desktop, they may start their journey on mobile. On the property pages, we have share buttons on all property pages across all our templates because we found that when we have share buttons, people can send themselves a note or an email address or whatever it is on mobile so that they can continue it. What you want to do is you want to make sure that the handoff is as seamless as possible. And then kind of like to the last point I'll make here is that you don't want to just cram everything that you have on desktop into mobile. You want to really think about what the right experience is here. I have a small little example. It's super tiny. I apologize for that. But on desktop, on our search pages, or home pages, we show the search bar. But on mobile, we actually hide that and we just have a little button. And if you do that, it brings up a mobile drawer that feels very mobile native as if it's in the app instead. And we found that the tap targets are easier to navigate. It just feels a lot more natural on a mobile device. And if we copy the same thing to desktop, it wouldn't make sense there. So I just want to make sure that you're thinking about not just trying to fit the same thing in a smaller screen, but what does it feel right? How do you make sure that the whole entire booking flow is right for the right medium?
Yeah, so great points all around there in terms of the data, in terms of the general approach, and obviously the importance of mobile, how that's going to impact the user journey and what a huge portion of the traffic they're able to absorb through mobile sites. I totally agree, but I think that there's some core concepts that are really integral to kind of meeting the modern standard of a booking website that are important for everybody to know. And I'd be remiss if I didn't cover those to kind of set up a point about mobile, which is, what really matters in your website is that 88% of online consumers are not going to go back up the site experience is bad. So you want to have reliable experience. A great quote from sports is your best ability is availability. Maybe not from a booking standpoint, but from a working standpoint. Having capable features that make it easy to find what you're looking for, but also intuitive steps that make it really simple to get to the properties that are available, the right vacation for you. Being intuitive, being easy. That's what matters. Complexity doesn't necessarily. You don't want to be reducing friction with added steps or additional clicks to get into properties. You want to make it really easy to get right where they're going.
I always say like hand your older relative the phone and say, "Hey, I want you to find a property." And just have them use it and then hear their frustration on your site and see what happens. Guarantee
Yeah,
you're gonna find some stuff that needs to be fixed.
Yeah,
absolutely. Just taking off the glasses as a vendor, right?
Right.
yeah, and I think Gail called this very technically a tap target, but I see here we have thumb-friendly interface, so I love that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, similar approach here for RealTech as Gil. Obviously, a little bit of difference of approach on the homepage, but really it's all about making it easy to get to with your thumb. It shouldn't be clunky to use. We certainly fall more into the category of putting a lot of what's in your desktop experience into mobile, but it's not responsive in that we made it so that everything in your desktop stacks, and then you got to figure out how to compensate for bad spacing. We completely redesigned the version of our website for mobile in a lot of the core stages, and so that you have the same capability, but in an experience that's really catered to the environment it's in.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of us here, almost all four of us, we have pretty deep integrations with the PMSs here. And I think one of the things that we made the mistake of doing actually in the early days of CraftedStays was to use the widgets that our PMS provided us. And we're still growing at that time. This is a few years back, but we've now evolved where for all of our PMS partners, we have a direct API integration, not just for the property sync, but the entire booking flow as well too, because we found that when using the widgets, we were very restricted on one, styling, but two, the navigation differences between mobile and desktop there. So it was a lot of work for us to do the API integrations on the booking flows, but from a conversion standpoint, it was well worth it there.
Yeah. And I won't go through this data, but everyone can see it. I mean, the impact of doing what you're talking about, Gil, is huge. This was year one, year over year, not a RealTech site with the mobile build. It's a RealTech site with the mobile build, and everything goes through the roof because you provide the right experience, right?
But Gil, if I'm hearing you right, for somebody, let's say today, that's just dropping their PMS widget onto a Squarespace site or whatever site they built themselves, you're basically saying like a better designed checkout flow that's native will convert better than those widgets in most cases.
Yeah, if you're thinking about the entire journey, I think if you go back one slide, Britt actually has a good kind of flow there. The user is going through many different screens as they're shopping on the home page, they're going to the search page, to the property page, to the checkout page. There's many different interactions there, and when you're using the widgets, one, I think probably the most blatant thing is that sometimes you may even land on a different domain, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on. But it's a very different experience there. So you as a website creator or designer, you don't really have autonomy of like what the flow looks like and feels like, and oftentimes it may be even different fonts there. And just these small little changes makes a big impact on your overall conversion there. So you just can't do some of those things with the widgets, and
Yeah.
we had to learn that the hard way.
I think the industry average is 0.4% conversion rate for websites, and the majority of those will be your crappy free PMS sites, or even worse, like you said, a widget that's just dumped on a Wix, Squarespace, WordPress, whatever. And what we're talking about and what the chaps have put together here is like the blueprint of what you need to do, which is phenomenal. And the stats, like I say, speak for themselves. Like this is insane what we're looking at and the numbers that we're seeing.
Now we're going to pivot and we'll talk a little bit more about design. And I really like this because we actually took examples of, I guess I usually call this the hero section of the website. I don't know if you guys have a better term for this, the search bar. But I love for, I don't know exactly which order these in, but I'd love for each person to talk about why they made the choices they made, because they're all a little different. And doesn't mean one's wrong or right and maybe better for one type of person, but I love to go through and just kind of have each person just talk about why they made the decisions they made here.
So I've got the top one. So this is a custom site, and they had a lot of unique experiences, a lot of curated experiences that they wanted to make sure that everybody knew about. Now, you couldn't put families, couples, corporate retreats, you couldn't put all of that in a giant text bar at the top to make sure that they all know. But these clients actually do offer this type of service to their guests. So rather than like making it right, in your face, we know that and big. We know that people, the first thing that people do is hit that search bar, and we'll show you that in a minute. But that search bar is the most important part on your website, no matter what. And we just decided, hey, let's just put these categories right above the search bar so that they see. They may not click, but at least they see that they have these different types of accommodations and services that so they're aware. And it was just simple. Arrival, departure, bedrooms. That's it.
Yep.
Nothing more. But they have a wide variety of houses that are available. But we just want to get them into that funnel.
Yep. We're here on the second one, and I know that Mark and Gil are about to unload on the same point that Paul just made, which is that you want to keep it simple. You want to make it about getting through the process. Similarly to Paul, I just want to show one kind of custom solution in case some of those of you out there have larger inventories of real estate and search rentals. And that application, we're still really gunning to make it very, very simple and very distilled down so that you can use that same interface depending on what you're looking for. But that's a custom solution outside of being just direct booking focused.
Just curious, but do you typically recommend when somebody has a real estate business and a vacation rental business to have this one joint marketing site that is advertising both services? Is that kind of like your preferred uh, direction you advise people to take?
Yeah, there's different strokes for different folks, but for a lot of people, this is what we recommend because we want them to put all of their content. We want to be able to put the full force of their company into their site. We're generally going to let the real estate component kind of play second fiddle across the board. But if you have all that information in there, what we generally find is that it sets up people who are working at scale and looking to do acquisition with sort of the inroads into content and contact info about that or to look at the real estate. I think that you want to be able to show people that you can sell your property with us, you can purchase properties through us, and either way you can rent them through us.
Totally. And I believe this is
The next
Boostly.
one is me. The next one is mine. And again, I love to keep it minimalist. I'm a massive fan of the KISS principle. And for those who need a book on this to help, Story Brand by Donald Miller. Read it a long time ago. It's one of the best books. And it speaks a lot about website design. And we've dabbled and we've changed it a lot. So it used to look a lot like how Gil's did below. But I really like this because at the very start of the booking process, when they land on your site, you want to keep it very, very simple. So arrive, depart, guests. And again, like I said, we have a framework that works. We've tested this. We're not just thinking things up and implementing them. It's done on the back a lot of data that we can see. Doesn't mean that clients don't get in because we give everybody full access to their sites and they can do what they want once the website is live. Doesn't mean that they go in and start faffing with it afterwards and putting in bits. But I really like this bit for the booking bit to be as simple as possible. Arrive, date, guests. Hit the search, let your imagination go wild. And again, doesn't matter if you've got one property, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, doesn't matter if one state, 2 states. It works, and it really does work because then you get them into the map page, which is what we've shown, and from there they really narrow down where they're going to stay.
Yeah, and I agree with Mark that you have a pretty wide base of customers that you're serving. For us, the last example there is one of our larger property managers that has over 100 units there. So it is important for them to be able to specify what market they're going into. Because what we don't want to do is kind of land them to a page where they're going to have to do further filtering down the road. Especially if they know very, very early on that they're going to Florida or they're going to the Smokies or wherever they're going there. So that's been the approach there. Users can toggle that on and off, and actually the different templates, all of our different templates have kind of different personas of property managers that it's geared towards. This one is geared towards the higher property counts, but we have templates that are geared towards single digits or even double digit property managers. And those we actually will hide certain fields there and simplify things. So it really depends on the type of clients that we do.
You brought up a really good point there, Gil, with the location is in there, and it's important because in your case, if they know where they're going, then and you have a very diverse portfolio. We have clients that have some in Idaho and Florida and California, and it's tough to make the site function like that, but you definitely need to have like that kind of that would be the decision that you would need to make. as a web development company to decide, do I need the location on there or not? So I'm
Hmm.
just, that's a good point. Very good point.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Certainly works for Long and Foster at 2,400 properties. You're so right about
Right.
that, Gil. Like you got to get them into a destination before they
Yeah,
start searching.
yeah. If you can't imagine, like, if you're going on Airbnb and you're trying to do a search, even like if you don't give a destination, it's going to give you a bunch of random stuff, which doesn't start you off on the right foot there. So
Totally.
that's why we do it. And again, it's not for every property manager. If you're a property manager that only has properties in a single space, we actually will hide that field altogether. So you only get the dates. And in some cases, some templates, the arrival and departure dates are actually one field, and it brings up a calendar that allows you to select both of them together there. So it still feels very native there.
And I think we see that example here, right, where we didn't need some of these fields and it actually increased the ability to get results and get people to that search page, right?
Yeah, we were seeing a lot of people getting, so we track the number of returned results that people search for. So we've got a tool that you can, it basically tracks everything, every filter that they use, how many results they got, the dates they put in, the locations, all that stuff, and make a nice dashboard out of it. And what we're noticing, there was a lot of zero search results coming directly from the homepage. Well, we decided, you know what, let's stop that because we were noticing those people that were getting low search results, they were not staying on the site as long for obvious reasons. They were over filtering, and they were adding so many filters that it was causing, a improbable property, we'll call it. So just by removing the illusion of choice, it really helped with decreasing those number of search results, and it also increased the overall time on site for that subgroup as well, and increased the conversion rate of that subgroup. So it was definitely a good choice. Proof's in the pudding on that one.
Yeah,
And I just, oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I just wanted to pause a moment. I think what you're seeing here, and this is probably a thread that you'll see in the entire call here today, is that on the website building side, it's a lot not about making the site necessarily look pretty, but really doing a lot of testing, a lot of data analysis kind of behind the scenes to identify where are people dropping off, why are they dropping off, what are anomalies that we should be catching. And I love how, Paul, you're pulling this in there and kind of showing the group here, when you're building a website, you do need to be very iterative in how you're doing things. You need to be spending time, or your team to be spending time on making adjustments there to figure out what is the right experience to drive drive the ultimate conversion there. It's not a set and forget type of thing.
And I just had a question about, because we have images of the search bars, but not actually the mechanics. And I know, for instance, on like Airbnb, you can just put in a destination, do a search without dates or number of guests. So I'm kind of
Hmm.
curious, like, which of these fields are you requiring? I don't have to go through everyone's answer, but like, can you just
Nothing.
hit search with nothing?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
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 Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious,
And
how do you guys also like pick what the default dates are? Does that like that you are then searching, or you don't search any dates?
we leave it at
We open a day of.
Yeah.
We open a day of. You never want to cut somebody off from availability that's upcoming if you're trying to close last minute dates, which is increasingly prevalent. You can't box them
Yeah.
out from those by jumping up a month.
And then yeah, moving on here, I think this is another really great point. I think this is from Paul, right? Of
Yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of what
Yeah,
real
we were talking
estate,
about mobile experience.
yeah, is most important.
And this just goes to show you just how important that search bar is. And this is just a small subset of websites, but only, well, basically three-quarters of everybody does not go past the top search bar. Most of them that land on the site do that search and then fall into the booking funnel. So that's why I say it's that bar is so important. It's so important to have that right there in front of you. And I even looked at it a little bit further. The people that did scroll farther on the homepage, they were actually either repeat visitors or they have visited the inner pages and then went back to the homepage and scrolled down. So that number is actually a little bit less than what's presented here. So it's just, again, just super important that your first impression is the right one, and get them into that funnel, because that's really all they care about. They look for properties first, then they decide if you're a reputable company. They want to see if you have something before they decide if they want to stay with you.
That's such a fantastic point. And now we've been talking about homepages, but I think we can broaden out the discussion to landing pages because the reality is most people or a lot of traffic is not actually first hitting your homepage, especially when you have a much larger website with a bunch of content, right?
Exactly, exactly. I mean, this just in itself, like again, another aggregated number pull from my side. 75% of people land on not the homepage when they come to the website. So, just because you focus all of your time, and this is a common thing that we see a lot of our clients that come on board with us. We want to make sure our homepage is perfect, and we want to put things on the bottom, and we want to put make it long and full of stuff. And I'm just want to that's cool, that's great, but not everybody's going to see that. Only a very small subset. So your inner pages are just as important to work on because that could be the first impression too.
Also, as well, very quickly with that number that you've seen before, one of the things that is happening very, very rapidly at the moment, 65% of direct bookings have come from an OTA search, and that's from auto rank. And what that means is that they're finding the listing on Airbnb and they're Googling the property name and the brand name, and they're putting that into Google, which is
Yep.
really like a key to that stat that you're seeing there, where they're going to a specific property listing. So they're whacking the details into Google or wherever, Bing, and then they're going straight to the property listing page. So that's why
Mm-hmm.
they're bypassing the home, because of they're doing that. So try and think to how your guests are discovering your website. So yeah, some
Right.
really good numbers there, Paul.
Yeah.
And that
This
this is
first,
really,
oh, sorry.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I know this next one's me, so I was going to jump into it. I want to give a 7-second thought on what Mark just said. And that's that I recently looked at the way that Google Lens is changing a lot and integrating to AI search. It's actually a lot more direct booking website friendly. If you go and you do Google Lens, it's oftentimes going to actually tell you who it is, where they are, and how to get to their website. So that funnel is opening up for us, which is awesome. Kind of getting back onto the pages of the site, big concept for us at RealTech, and I think for everyone on the call today is, all roads should lead to bookings. Quick search going into the website, getting into the search funnel, super important, the number one thing. But a lot of people do go into navigation. A lot of people do go into your graphic shortcuts just below. And so making sure that everything is pointing them through a filtered experience is super important. This example on the side's a little small, but it's one of our websites. They're on the homes with pools page. They're doing a quick date search. When that goes into the search results page where all the search functionality is, it's also pulling in the filter of homes with pools because we've already been told that that's what they're looking for. So that's just a way to make sure that everything's really nice and seamless and intuitive.
Yeah, and I think
And maybe just, sorry, I'm just curious about these like, how do you, when you're working with somebody, how do you decide, like, what are the sub pages and categories that deserve these kind of like standalone landing pages that are, I guess, meant to drive also some search traffic?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that Paul's going to talk a little about this more later too. So I'm going to leave some space there. But the key thing is really based off inventory. The larger your inventory is, the different ways you can parse up your inventory is going to create one intuitive flow because people can really nail down into what they're looking for if you don't go too big and overcomplicate it. But also in creating these pages, what it really is creating real estate for SEO, where we're creating keyword driven pages, good content, and trying to rank for those secondary keywords where your destination plus vacation rentals is always going to be super competitive, always super high search volume. There's a ton of opportunity there based out of something that is more segmented, and we're using these to get there. They just also serve this added bonus of keeping people in funnel and getting them back to search.
yeah, the last thing on that one is kind of like to that point, you want to make sure that every interaction, every section on your page has some way to link back to the homepage. In the previous example, like even the reviews on the homepage actually links back to the actual property that review is for there. So think about your blogs, think about your landing pages, your reviews, anywhere where you have a orphan page or another content, you want to make sure that you're driving them down the funnel, and you want to think about the funnel during the entire journey.
Yeah. A lot of the best stuff in this conversation today is going to be in the mid to late stages of it. So I'm going to get us through this very, very quick. Take a look at this slide. Think about this: conveying your service, conveying your testimonials, conveying trust by humanizing your company, demonstrating that you care with caring about your aesthetics, demonstrating that you're reliable by having a high performing site. All super important. if you want to talk about those things, hit me up.
Now we'll move over to the booking funnel, which obviously is super important. So yeah, I'm not sure whose this is, but you can take this away and discuss what's going on
Yeah,
there.
this is me again, but I'm sure we all got opinions. So again, I'll try to leave some space. With RealTech, so much of our focus is about people getting into quick search and getting to this page because this is where the magic happens. And meeting modern search experience, you got to keep in mind you're competing with OTAs. They're going from an OTA in a lot of situations now and getting to you. So you want to provide really powerful tools that keep it intuitive. So things like urgency messaging, late, really late bookings are becoming more and more of a thing. You got to encourage people to pull the trigger when they're ready for it. And then we'll do other stuff down the funnel to make sure if they don't, we bring them back. Streamlined filtering, great filtering that helps them do what we were just talking about, but also not so many that it makes it impossible, like Paul said, to find a property that fits. Flexible date search, you see this in a lot of OTAs. For us, the primary benefit to it is eliminating those zero search results and showing people that if you're willing to adjust a little bit, you may have things that are available to you that aren't for the specific date. I don't know about y'all. I'm usually planning a vacation and I know I want to leave about this date. Guest ratings and your property cards there, you can see we've got 5-star reviews on the properties that have reviews. Share and compare. Gil, you talked a lot about this and I so agree. Make it really easy to pass it off from mobile to desktop. And also, make sure you have something. We use something called Send My Stay, but I think we all have solutions. If they go to abandon this, give them a place to put their email address in that we can send this search result into their inbox. And then, last thing, accurate pricing, super important. Transparency matters. And then we do a responsive cluster map on all our sites. When you have 200 properties on one island, it is just a giant green speck across the map, and that's not helpful. So we distill it down into property clusters. You click into those, the map expands. And as long as you check that box where searches under the map, you're only going to see results based off of what you're looking at right then.
And I feel like the one thing that you brought up there is this super important is I know we have a lot of people on the call that are like sub 20 listings. Making sure people have results and having these like flexible dates is super important because if you only have 3 or 4 listings, a lot of search results are going to yield zero results, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fantastic point. It's a super important thing to keep in mind. Kind of picking back up on the responsive map, I want to lead so I don't forget with if you aren't somebody who has 200 properties across a big paint and you only have a select amount of properties in the responsive map, it's not going to cluster them and go 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2. It's just going to show pins. It ultimately scales down to that. But I think that map tool is so important because of the data on this page. That map,
Everybody's doing the math here.
everyone is doing the map. 296 more clicks on the map than any other element. I know there's multiple clicks per engagement, but they're using it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's clear why. Just think about the last time you all made a booking as well. Like when I last made a booking, you book it on the map because you got to find it where it is in relevance to things. So if you're looking for a stay at the beach, you want to see how far your property or the property you're looking at is from the beach, right? And the map is the place where you get that. You don't get that from a static image of what's that? A nice little woodland stay, right? So the map is key. And if you've got a good map on your site, you're more likely to get that next level of the funnel.
Yeah. This one is on my side. You want to make sure, kind of like to our point of understanding the entire funnel and where the drops off are, you're going to want to run your tests. And in our case, we saw that people that land on the property page, they're dwelling for a long time, meaning they're on the page, they're searching. And one of the things that were assuming or identifying is that people are also comparing the prices that they're on that property page against what they may be doing on Airbnb and VRBO. So we saw abnormal kind of dwell time on the property pages. And what we did is we actually now have it where we're scanning Airbnb and VRBO for the price and then bringing that back in there. It fires out right after someone does a quote. It probably takes about 5 seconds, but we've seen that increases conversion. It actually decreases dwell time and on to the next page. We're still gathering a lot of data on this. It is quite computationally heavy because we are running a headless browser behind the scenes that is basically sending another browser to check on Airbnb and VRBO. But we've seen positive progress towards conversions when we do something like this.
Yeah, do any else, I guess other people have you guys experimented with price comparison with OTAs on checkout pages? And I guess what are your guys' thoughts on doing this or not doing this?
Love that he does it. So pro doing this. Everyone should do it. It's on our roadmap. We just got other things in front of it right now, as any tech company does. But there are other companies who have done similar things I've seen out there that have really, really great data. Gil, you said you're because of your what's the integrity, you want to wait until you have really compound data to show. The data is going to be there because this works. So good on you for having it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's why tools like direct booking tools and Directo, the Google Chrome extension, and obviously half of this is why you're getting involved with Stay Finder and stuff. You've got the Google Chromes. It's why they're so popular is because of this. You can show a live price comparison. We've messed around with all these third party tools, and it is very good. I love, Gil, how you're building this in house, and I'm going to be messaging you afterwards to find out what you're doing because this is very cool. And like it's just proof is in the pudding. If you've got a little pop up or a little thing under the booking button that says, "Hey, if you book this direct, you're saving money compared to booking on Airbnb or Verbo or Booking.com," it works. The problem that we've seen, the reason why we stopped using these third party tools, and this is more to the host and how they do run their business than anything else. When we were running these, the direct price was more expensive than Airbnb. So we were we were on the checkout page and the direct price was higher than Airbnb. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? So again, it's nothing like what we're solving here. It's more the host and how they do their pricing. But
Yeah.
hey ho.
Mark, you bring up a good point because we had to kind of work around some of those issues. So there's actually a tolerance level that you define as it has to exceed X amount of savings before you even show it because you don't want to show $25 savings on it. And this is actually post-tax as well too. So this is the all-in price of it. We originally did this with just the stay amount and we found that people were still dropping off. And so it was a lot of iterations. I would say also there's a lot of tools out there. A lot of them are expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Ours is equally as well too. It's very computationally heavy to run something like this. So we typically don't see this until someone is driving significant amount of volumes that warrants them to put something like this in there. So this is not an easy free thing that adds in there. We are thinking about things of like static markups that says, oh, you're saving 15% against Airbnb VRBO, but that's more of an estimate type. And those is a much easier for us to roll out across the board. But something like this is computationally heavy. So just keep that in mind as you're thinking about whether or not you want to put this in there.
There's
I
a
think
really quick thing. Sorry, I was going to say there's a
Okay.
really quick free thing that you can all do, but you don't need to get this sort of heavy into it. Not everybody books on price. People will book direct because of the incentives that you give towards them. And you don't need a fancy tool in the back end to do that. You can put this on the listing page. So for example, what we did at our family business is we had like direct booking benefits like early check-in, a welcome basket, bottle of wine, whatever. So you could always throw that on because at the end of the day, people don't always book on price. They do book on the incentives that you give them. So you could do that for free right now on your listing page.
Yeah, Mark just brought up one really good point before we go here, which is if on your website your brand promise is the price will be lower, it's good to actually check to make sure that it is lower in most cases. And there's a lot of times where people are adding like specific Airbnb only discounts based on length of stay or other things in their pricing tools where actually then the direct price is becoming more expensive. So it is your brand promise. Just make sure you don't have other things going on in like a price labs or in your pricing tool where then that's not going to be the case because you want to make sure that you're honoring what you are promising on your website, which a lot of websites have that promise. Now we'll talk a little bit more about the marketing side and actually how to get traffic to your website, which is obviously super, super important in being successful in this direct booking game.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So this comes right out of our sales deck where we talk about this with people to prop up the marketing conversation. Uh, I think this is just a really easy, high level way to really understand who interacts with your website. It is the core of your online presence. Where does everyone come from? Over in blue on the left, we've got email, organic, and SEO. The AI overviews in Google and paid search, those three are all going to go through Google. You have social, and then you have AI chatbots. I connected them into referral because we're seeing a lot of situations in GA4 where it's pushing it through as a source medium under referral traffic. But ultimately, Google's not really buttoned up the way that they're going to report that analytics. So it's kind of a to be monitored and to be continually paid attention to by the four of us on the call. You have direct, which is going to eat up in analytics. That's going to eat up where attribution hasn't been properly set up or didn't get executed correctly, but also people who are going directly to the site by the URL. referrals, anyone coming from another website, and then conversion tools, like I talked about in the search funnel part. Your booking recovery, hitting them back after checkout abandonment, hitting them back after search page abandonment. We got different tools for those things. And thanks for flipping this over, because this is where we're looking at the results from those marketing services. A lot of data here, more than anybody wants to look at right this second, but go back and pause this, look through these. You're able to look at sessions, you're able to look at your purchases, the rate at which you're converting, the rate of your engagement, the total revenue, compare it year over year. I saw a question in the chat asking about, A/B testing your operations. For us as a website and marketing company, there's a lot of answers to that question, but one really easy one is looking at, are we moving the needle? Is engagement getting better? Are bookings getting higher? And then I'm just going to keep talking just because I want to speak to why I have that other thing on the side. If you go back and look, I just highlighted some of the best reports to look at if you're wanting to explore analytics, don't know a lot about it, but want to find out interesting information about your website.
Yeah, I think one of the really important things that you brought up, which I think is important to know, is like a lot of the traffic in this direct section that's resulted in bookings is kind of like leakage, I guess you could say, or unattributed traffic that's because of something else you did, as in they got an email on their phone and then they went on their desktop and went to your site directly, or then they maybe even Googled and it went under organic search because they Googled your brand name, right? So some of the other paid marketing or email marketing you're doing, you're never going to get full attribution through Google Analytics because traffic is either going cross-device or leaking through multiple sessions in other ways, or we can't track them, and there's all issues around that. So no tracking is ever going to be perfect here, but it is directionally very, very, very helpful.
Yeah.
I think before we move on this one, I think there's like two things that you want to make sure you do is like one, for some of our, especially our smaller hosts there, installing Google Analytics, even if you don't know how to use it, is really, really important because I find way too often people will launch sites and they don't have Google Analytics installed on them. We now put it as part of our onboarding flow. Even if you're self-service, we have guides on how to install some of those things, but make sure you do it. Again, even if you don't understand what it's doing behind the scenes, because what you want to do is collect the data to, at some later point, if you hire a marketing agency or you dive into it and you start to learn about it, you now have historical data because it doesn't start collecting until you actually put that script on there. And then two is to really do an audit of where you are sending traffic to it. And there's this concept of like UTM parameters that you can put into the URLs that allows you to see, are you running campaigns? Are your sources coming from these places? And it allows you to have much deeper data, like Britt is showing on this screen here. When you start to use some of those UTM parameters, you can then segment that, oh, is this influencer driving more traffic? Is this marketing tactic actually being effective? Because what you don't want to do is spend a whole lot of time, resources on marketing efforts that don't yield conversions there. And if you aren't tracking that, you can be blowing a lot of time and energy.
Always track.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to point out too that there was a new Apple update last month, or not last month, in September, October, or something like that. That they're basically stripping UTM parameters. They're stripping Facebook click IDs, Google Ads tags. There's every time that you click on something, it strips that query string that we use as marketers to track. So we're getting less and less data, and more of it is going into that direct none channel. That's why it's so big. It's not like everybody's typing in your website. Sorry, it's not it. It is actually unattributed, unknown traffic.
The people are good. We still have like 10, 15 slides left. I think we're just going to go over the time limit. Maybe it's going to be 20, 15 minutes over-ish, but we'll try to go through this quickly as I know this next section is all about discovery. And I know this is a topic that's on a lot of people's mind, which is how to be discovered in AI search, whether it's Claude or ChatGPT.
Yeah, so much good information here. And I know from personal experience that, all four of us have a lot to say here. So I'm going to just cover kind of talking about the answer section and hand it over to somebody else to talk about the responses. I'll lead by saying that this QR code in the top corner is a guide of like my full content presentation on this. So if you want to go deeper and understand some of the things we're talking about, that's one good way to go look at it. But we all have great answers. The important thing to understand with AI is that if you distill down all the voodoo magic and the uncertainty and it's crazy that it works, really what it's doing is its job is to take human language, turn it into quantitative data, and run some formulas to understand relevance and to rank information and relevancy to it and response to it, and then use AI generated critical thinking, which is crazy to me that we're kind of at that point, and then just push it back into human language. So everything that you do with your content about getting your site to show up in AI responses or AI overviews is centered around making it human. And I think Gil's going to talk a lot more about that, and Paul's, I'm sure, got a lot to say there too.
Yeah, I think there's a few things. Like one, right now, from a traffic standpoint, only about 1% of traffic is actually coming from LLMs, but they typically convert significantly higher, 15 times higher than original or organic search or paid ads or any other medium there. So and it's mainly because it's very intent driven. Someone's already planning their trip, they're looking for stays, they're giving ChatGPT Perplexity a lot of data about what they're trying to do, and they're giving them what seems to be good advice on which ones you should be looking at. So that person is really high intent when they come in there. And we're going to probably see that stat go up significantly throughout 2026. I think the one thing that I want all of our listeners here to really internalize is that in order to come up in LLM search or AEO or GEO, you want to make sure that you have a really strong SEO foundation, because if you don't show up in traditional SEO, you will not come up in any of the other searches, because behind the scenes, they're both using Bing for ChatGPT, um, and they're using Google for Gemini and all the other models there. So you want to make sure that your website is registered with both Bing Webmasters and Google Search Console, and you have good SEO in play. If you don't, you have absolutely almost no chance of appearing in chat search.
I just want to say well done to us for lasting a whole hour before we talked about AI. So well done. So we've done
Yeah, I'll second that.
Well done. Well done, us.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like I don't know if you guys disagree, but from my standpoint, I feel like the things that we're doing to appear well in SEO are also helping us appear in AI search. And at least for my business, I don't feel like there's that much difference in what we need to build in terms of content and like the website. But I don't know if you disagree, Gail, because you're
I
maybe more technically adept at here than I
I
am.
do disagree a little bit. I do
Okay,
disagree.
please disagree.
And I think Paul and Britt, I think you dive into this pretty well as well, and maybe Mark as well. But LLMs love structured data.
Mhm.
And so when you are building your property pages, when you're building your FAQs, you want to follow schemas. Google has structured ways that they want to see how your property is arranged, the latitude and longitude of it. They want to know the amenities in a very structured format. So you want to make sure that you're feeding this. They're not reading the page in the pixels that our eyes see. They're reading the HTML on that. And if you ever look at any of our websites here, like I'm including all of us, and you inspect the page, if you like right click and go and inspect page, you'll see that there's a lot of metadata that we stuff in there in the format that the LLMs care about. And those are the things that they're picking up, and they're basically building their model against. So yes, you want to have strong SEO, but more importantly, if you're trying to rank on chat search, then you want to make sure that you have good structured data.
Yep. I'd back up everything you just said there. Good GEO and good AEO is built on the back of good SEO, but it is adjustment. And, Gil, I completely agree. It's about structuring your data. And I think that one thing that's super important for property managers to keep in mind is the one place that your website provider can't go do the dirty work for you with optimizing for AI is those property descriptions. But across the board, provide summaries, provide FAQs, summarize the content you put in, because AI's job is to go find the right answer quickly. So if you ask the question and then answer it, that simplifies that a lot. But SEO is still going to be looking for robust content. So you have to find that balance. And ultimately, a little guy in the corner will tell you how.
My opinion on this is that for 99% of the people who are in the chat, don't need to worry about this, because as soon as Gil, you mentioned the word schema, 10% of the room left.
Yeah. And that's honestly our job, is like when we pull the PMS data, we're structuring it behind the scenes. Like none of our customers never know that we've made all these changes kind of behind the scenes. It's our job to, as website builders, to structured in the right way to make sure that our clients are receiving the best website possible. But if you are DIYing it, know that you have to put some of these things in practice.
Yeah, I want to clarify, Marcus, that's a great point. All I'm talking about with property listings is just making sure you're providing a lot of information about the property, about what it's near, so that it is digestible. Because that's how it's going to be there for you.
Yeah, and I wouldn't worry, Gil. I think they 10% left because we did hit the actual official end time of the webinar, although we're going to keep going. So I don't know if it was a word schema, but yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Like any software or technology business is a good one, is going to do these things behind the scenes. And then like Britt says, solicit the right information from you so that you can complete fantastic property descriptions and have all the right information that only you know as the owner operator into your website, which is super important. I'm just gonna,
Exactly.
yeah. I'm just gonna go and just touch a little bit on the like remarketing piece, which is kind of the key part of that acquisition funnel. We talked about this before, and this is really, really important. And I know all of these folks have great tools for getting folks on the mobile site to then send either the listing to themselves or to a friend or family, and when they want to make the booking on a desktop. Other key thing that you want to do on a mobile site is collect people's emails. And of course, at StayFi, like we have email marketing tools, and we provide these types of forms that you can either do as pop-ups or embedded forms or all of those things. So it's really important that if you're spending time and energy to get traffic, whether it's email or social or organic, and they're coming to your mobile site, all the value of that traffic is going to increase if you can capture an email in the process. And I like this example from one of our customers, Cabins for You, because they are giving you a reason to provide your email. So this is kind of either like a get exclusive offers, get member pricing, could be a discount code. All of those things, you're going to see higher conversion when you have the type of give get in collecting an email. And then very important is that in your email tool, whether it's StayFi or MailChimp or Campaign Monitor or any other tool, is when you're soliciting an email like this, where you are promising something, that you set up the accompanying automation to actually deliver that thing. Because so many websites I've been to, if property managers where I enter an email into a form and then I don't get an email until they send a newsletter in 3 weeks, and then I forgot I subscribed, right? So it's very important that you have that email interaction automated right up front so that people then are primed to expect additional emails from you in the future.
Yeah, I think to feed off this one, Arthur, I think it's really important to kind of going back to like knowing your guest avatar and knowing who's visiting your place and what your value prop is here. If you are on more discount stays, I think providing some sort of discount code as part of this. But if you are providing more of an experience and you have higher end stays there, we find that travel guides is a really effective way to get them hooked because, and then it also builds trust as well too. So just depending on the type of properties that you manage there could be different what we call like lead magnets that you may want to deploy. It doesn't always have to be discount codes.
100%. Um, Yep, and then I'll just touch briefly on StayFi email marketing in general, because this is like a really important piece of your direct booking strategy. I like to think that we are the premier email marketing tool in the space just because we provide or have a tool specifically built for vacation rentals. So all the campaigns in StayFi are totally designed for specific short-term rental operators, unlike if you went with like a generic tool like MailChimp, which is going to have tons of templates for all different types of purposes. And then the other really important thing is integrating with PMS data. So in all the emails that you're sending from StayFi, you can import properties, you can import pricing. I know Britt mentioned that last minute stays are becoming really important. So one thing that we do is we can check your calendar and then have us import availability for properties, and then you can insert the 4 properties with availability this coming weekend, and then you send that email, and then it will go straight to your website to those properties with those dates selected, and then increase the likelihood that we can drive a conversion through the website because, again, we want email traffic to also go to properties with availability. So just like how on the website, we do not want searches with no results. When we send email marketing about certain homes, we don't want to send people to homes where the calendar is completely full because it's already been booked, right? So it's very important to keep that in mind when also doing marketing because you do not want to send people to homes or search results where there is no availability to book because that again will kill their experience.
Mhm.
And now I think we are kind of coming up to the last section, which is website mistakes we see every week. And I just thought this would be a fun one for everyone just to go through in their own experience, issues, big ones, small ones they're seeing every day, because you might resonate as part of the audience. You might notice like, hey, we have this in our own site and we can go fix it pretty quickly here.
Yeah, this is an ambiguity one. We had a client that had a problem renting their second row and behind properties that were off the beach. Well, when you're not from the beach area, you don't really know what off beach means, and not sure how far away that is or whatever. And this is again, I said we track the number of searches that people do and the filters that they use, and we changed it from off ocean to walk to beach, and immediately it became the second highest clicked filter to get people to go look at those properties. So just that little switch to change off ocean to walk to beach, it made a big difference. It's another one we see. I hope everybody has hot water, or library or live theater in their rooms, and all that stuff. But we see this one not as much lately, but depending on some of the PMSs and whatnot, a lot of the stuff gets fed to us in a long list, and we do have to go through and filter stuff out. But just make sure that you have this, have less is more. If you have things that are covered that are in every unit, you don't need a filter for it. That's kind of kind
I'm
of the
not sure
point
what
of this.
hospital means in this scenario. I
Yeah,
hope that's not
Right.
in the unit. But
yeah,
Yeah,
hopefully you're not staying
exactly.
in a hospital, but
I think
maybe
I think
there is one that exists nearby.
that's a really good point of like if you have amenities that across all your properties, don't actually have a filter for it because what you don't want is like someone to uncheck that off or not get a result. Like we have some property managers that have pools at every location across 20 different locations. And they're not making a collection for pool stays because that's all of their properties or they don't have the needed filter for that. So just also be mindful of how people are searching for and what your portfolio looks like.
I'd counter that. I hate
Yeah.
to be a contrarian. I would counter
No,
that.
it's good.
If going back to my original point, talking about the intent of segmenting based off type and amenity, if you have 50 properties and they all have a pool, but you maybe don't have the legacy or the content to rank on the first page, which is where every only 1% of people are going to go past page one in SERP, you do maybe have an opportunity to go and rank for vacation rentals with pool in your destination, and not
Yep.
creating a page for that where you can use content to try to raise your ranking, I think is an oversight. But I would agree with you on the notion of not just plugging everything into the site. At RealTech, we will allow you to control what actually pulls into the site and what is in your PMS software for another purpose or from a management purpose, so that you don't have to actually block those things out.
Yeah, I think that's a good clarification. I didn't mean that you don't want to create your landing page for SEO purposes on that, but
You
don't
just
put
mean in
in,
search filters.
yeah,
Yeah,
don't put in search
totally.
filters.
100% agree. Sorry, misunderstood.
Yeah, along those same lines, Bill just asked, would we also remove the common amenities from the OTAs? Let's everybody think about that.
Mm. I think go talk to Annie Holcomb. I'm not going to pretend to be the expert on the distribution strategy across OTAs. I can certainly
Yeah.
tell you what I think, but I would really encourage you to talk to somebody who specializes in that day in, day out.
Yeah, some OTAs do require certain things, so maybe just your website. Just worry about your website. This one on the screen, it's just again just a reiterative fact of like here is an actual uh, I want to say case study, but an example of when we see a lot of property, a lot of zero search results. Just adding up the number of times that we've gotten zero or one from this particular client over these dates, like, it's a lot. And if you do have bad filtering in place or whatever, it is important. If, just wanted to show it for a visual. Oh yeah, and this was another one. This is an oldie but a goodie. I always love bringing this one up because it's a small, I say a small change, but Over on the left was the old version, and on the right is the new version. We added some calls to action. We added a urgency feature. We made the total bigger, and we added checkboxes so they could choose whether or not the linen rentals or travel insurance was there. And it immediately click the next slide. Yeah, 111% increase in conversion rate, like just from making this change. So it was confusing. Just looking on the left, I mean, is optional, but it's included. It's in the price. Like it was very confusing. So making the math simple and along these same lines, like if you guys do slash through pricing or have anything like that you have a discount, we've always found that dollar off is better than percentage because it's real tangible numbers, especially when we're talking about like if you do a strike through was and now, like don't just put 10% off or 20, well, 10%'s easy, but like 20% or 25, it's very hard for people to math on the spot. And when you ask them to math on the spot and go back and forth between their property page and search results just to find that answer, it's difficult too. So do the math for them, show them the math with the real tangible numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, FTC pricing got like
Yeah.
a huge wave of panic and then has kind of like slowly rolled off. But at least speaking for us, we're continually building a better and more PMS agnostic solution to FTC pricing. So that's another thing you can do if it's available to you through web provider. Make sure you are showing that fully bundled rate and search. It's going to help with the transparency aspect.
Yeah, I think that goes to like some of the regulations that we're seeing like in California. We drove a lot of that where you're having to show the total price prior to checkout there,
Mhm.
and a lot of the PMSs that at least that we work with don't always provide the total price, so we're having to do a lot of calculations and storing and caching and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Any good website provider will help you navigate some of those things or kind of go towards that. So that's something that like it doesn't come easy, especially if you're using like some of the widgets or something like that.
Mhm.
Uh,
Absolutely.
this one here, this is probably the most common mistake that I see is people building websites through like a Squarespace or a Wix, and then they will use widgets. And then when they do, when someone starts a booking flow, you end up going to a different domain for that. One, it's a very different user experience. You'll notice like the navigations are different because of that. Um, you also lose a lot of tracking there. So cross-domain tracking, someone that went to your website because of social media, you don't know with fidelity whether or not that person converted. But overall, it's a poor user experience. So if you can avoid this, this is probably the most important one that I want to alleviate. But make sure that you're not pushing people towards the PMS property pages and search pages and such for the booking experience because it's not going to convert well. And Britt, Paul, Mark, I would love your take on that one.
About the subdomain sites,
Yeah.
I agree with everything you're saying there. I mean, there's so much that you can miss out on. Every PMS is going to be different in terms of the amount of emphasis they put into it, the amount of development resources. I'm not going to say that they're all bad, but if your best ability is your availability, and if you want people who are experts in what we do day in and day out, there are price points that you can reach that out. I talked about direct earlier. We start at $2,000 setup for RealTech Direct. Like it's not outside the realm of possibility to have the best stuff out there. So you should go get the best stuff out there. Speaking of the best stuff out there, let's talk about more things that maybe aren't. I did my best to blur these and make them pretty unclear because I just think they're good examples. I'm not down on anybody, but one thing that drives me crazy is really management focused sales sites that don't have a quick search, don't have interrupts to get to properties. And these three little orange arrows show on these two websites the only spots you can access vacation rentals. I think this top one is an especially bad offender. And then that goes to a subdomain. To me, as an owner, that says they care about getting more owners. They don't care about booking my property. And I think that that's an oversight that I see sometimes. I would really encourage anyone going this route right now to look into putting the rentals more front center. The second one, full vacation rental site there, they just didn't have a quick search at all. They do have two links to it, but put a quick search in there. We talked a lot about how important that is. I'm not going to beat that to death. This is another great example and something I see, more and more with the self-serve, not a lot of help from the website company, or maybe just not working with somebody as a marketer, doing some foundational SEO, even if it's something as simple as making sure in the upfront content on your homepage that's going to automatically feed into your meta title and description, which is kind of what tells Google what to say in the result. If you're not putting your destination in, you're immediately hamstringing yourself. So, talk about your experience, use your name, but clarify where you work and what kind of properties you do. And that's immediately a positive step. Um, and again, so not calling anyone out here. You're doing great. It's a hard job. I'm sure you're focused on the service and being great at property management. This is the site from that result. So you go from this result and then you go into this site, doesn't tell you what the destination is. There isn't a quick search. It just leaves you very far away from backing up what you say you do by giving more clarity about where you do it.
Yes, it can be surprisingly hard sometimes to figure out where property managers are located. And I will say that having gone to many of their websites, it can take actually some searching to be like, where are these homes?
Yeah.
So that I think a lot of people have a lot about your own business and you just apply a lot of assumptions onto users without really thinking through what their experience and journey is gonna be like.
Vendor glasses is the word we use around here for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if go look right now at your website, if you don't see where you are on the homepage immediately, then or at the top above the fold, got to be the first thing. Definitely do a fix for that. There's another one too. We took this client and they had an all properties drop down and it just led to every single one of their properties. So building out a segmented inventory of, dedicated and optimized landing pages, we were able to grow the traffic almost immediately. Within a month, we started seeing results from it. And then year over year, it was at 127% increase in conversion rate, something like that. It was like astronomically awesome. But just those foundational aspects, if you do have a lot of properties, then having those segmented pages for those different types is really key, or different locations, or all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. This one kills me. I know that it kills everyone else here, and I think it's super important. You, as a property manager looking to get people to book directly, the number one advantage that you have is your local expertise. It is your level of service. It is your one-to-one relationships. It's the way you come through. And if I went and asked any of the 60 people who are on here right now, what about their business makes them special versus not booking direct, you would tell me those things. But we go to your websites and it doesn't say those things. And it's a first impression. Sell your people, sell your brand promise, sell specific examples. Go back in this deck to where I was talking about showing that in the homepage, and you'll see that Blue Swell, a RealTech client who Jason's a super smart guy, he's done a really great job of laying out all those things in a really tight, concise box on the homepage. Plug and play. Paul, actually, I put a note in this deck. I want you to say what you said at Barefoot about this because I think it's the best thing. I think it's so spot on.
If you look at your website and if you look at your content and you can take your company name out and your location out and put another one in, your content is not good content.
A lot
Yeah.
of people do struggle with this massively. Like we've been seeing it for years. One of the things that we did is we put together a little app. It's called the Brand Voice Builder. It's totally free. It takes 15 minutes to do. You can voice it in or you can type it in and it spits out exactly what you need to be putting in to these sort of sections. But it also gives you like email content, pop-up content and stuff. It's absolutely free. If anybody wants it, you don't even have to put your email address in. Just send me an email, mark@boostly.co.uk, and I'll send you the link. I'll send it to Arthur and he can send it out afterwards because you are more right than anything else that we have said today is, you've got to separate you from everybody else, right? And it's super, super key to do that. You don't have to be expert copywriters or writers to do it. You just need to be able to use some of the amazing tools that are out there. But yeah, I feel like people buy from people at the end of the day, right? And if you don't showcase who you are, what you do, and why you do it on your homepage, on your website, on your socials, then you're just a faceless organization. And if people are going to book from a faceless organization, they'll go to Hilton, Marriott, etc. That's why they stay with us short-term rental hosts. Oh, look, it's mine. You can tell who was the last one to submit anything for this presentation, and it's me. And I've just literally just dumped it on about 10 minutes before we went in. But I felt I should put something in here. But yeah, so one of the big things that I see is not having live chat on your website. In 2026, it is criminal if you don't have it. It's so easy to do. We use Go High Level. That's a Go High Level bubble right there. If anybody's used a Go High Level CRM, you will notice that bubble right there, and it is so powerful. You can even now use tools like HostBuddy, AI, and even Go High Level as AI agents built in, so that you don't have to be online all the time to answer questions. It's so key, because I think that our superpower as small hosts is Airbnb doesn't have live chat, Booking.com doesn't have live chat, Verbo doesn't have live chat. You do, you can. And if you don't want to go all fancy dancy with that tech, just at least put your phone number and your email address very clearly where it is. But I feel like live chat is an absolute thing that I didn't see any of the chaps popping on their slides, and I think that's key.
Yeah, this is I think every property manager should have the facilities to do so. Like Mark mentioned, Yada, HostBuddy, all of them have chat bubbles that you can put onto it. You can even use Go High Level, or even like on a free basis, you can use Talk2, TAWK.to. That's a free tool that you can use. So you don't have to spend a whole lot or pay for perpetual subscriptions, but at least have some way for your customers to be able to reach you if they need to.
Yeah, I feel like that all goes back to that local expertise piece. Like, why would they want to book with you, especially if it's not a price-based decision?
Yeah, I want to tack onto that real quick. So I've done my part for RealTech. If you are a RealTech client, we do a version of the AI chat where it's just based off of your property description and property amenity data. So if you feel scared about opening everything to AI chat, worrying about a robot answering questions, if you're ever on a RealTech site, you can go use the AI chat and just get answers that are coming directly from the property manager. And that's a great solution. There's probably other things out there that do something similar. But if there are RealTech clients on here who don't know about it, please hit me up.
Do you guys want to go through the case studies? I know we're 20 minutes over, so we can also just cut it here.
I think we're all awesome, and
Yeah,
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
do case studies. Yeah.
I think we're good because my dinner's getting cold, so I need to go and eat some food over here in
Yes,
the UK.
obviously everybody that uses all of these services sees a vast and amazing improvement in their direct bookings. I think that goes without saying. I think my kind of key takeaway is, if you are looking for a website, I would go talk to all 4 of these companies at a minimum, because what you need is different than what everyone else needs. And there's definitely, you'll find the right fit and price point for your size inventory, and maybe whatever custom needs also you want for your site. So again, maybe just quickly, everyone, just say where they can find you, and then we will wrap it up today.
Yeah, I'll go first.
Yeah, we'll just
Twist
order
my arm.
of videos here.
Yeah, realtechvr.com. You can find the website there. Email me at brit@realtechvr.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I just put some links in the chat to some questions with my contact information. And another great way would be go back into the stack, scan that QR code about the AI. That'll take you right to our website.
Yep. For me, CraftedStays.co. You can visit our website. You can chat with us live as well too. You can also listen to our podcast, Book Solid, where every week we bring on hosts that have done really, really well in direct bookings and have them share their secrets. So if you're looking for resources, that's a good resource to look at.
I am Paul Hannock, ICND.net, Intercoastal Net Designs, so ICND.net. Or you can find me on LinkedIn or anywhere else. Just Google my name. It's pretty unique out there.
Or the second page of Google, right? Don't you have a joke about that?
Right.
Because no one will find them.
Actually, I share a birthday with Google, so who better to do your SEO?
So boostly.co.uk, boostly.co.uk. If you want a copy of that free brand voice builder app, just send me an email, mark@boostly.co.uk, or send me a message on LinkedIn, Instagram. It's not hard to find me. So thank you very much for having us. but I do have to bounce because I'm getting texts from my wife now saying, "Where are you?" So
Yeah, so thank you everybody again. Thanks to our amazing panelists. And like I said before, this will be posted on our YouTube and shared to all the registrants. So I know there's a ton of detail here. So anything you want to go back and watch, that will be available for you tomorrow. So thanks again, and thanks everybody for joining.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you.